If you ever don't want attention, don't break down in a Lamborghini at Diablo at rush hour.
This week on That Car Show, Ryan dodges a bullet by almost driving a Diablo, but luckily it broke down before he was able to break it down. We're joined by our good friend Michael, who shares some insights into somehow and sometimes you shouldn't meet the cars of your dreams, and there was one specific car that really kind of had that home. I talk about driving a Hellcat in 106 degrees at Radford Racing School. We talk a little bit about LA car culture, what's changing, and maybe we're just getting too old for it. And Ryan gets Ryan gets behind the wheel of his dream McLaren. Michael shares some insights into the new exhibit at the Peterson, totally awesome 80s and 90s. It gives us some real insights around the Typhoon cars that maybe we didn't even realize existed. That's it and more this week on That Car Show. Hey, welcome to this week's That Car Show, and joined by Ryan, but not Lindsey this week. Ryan has been to a Goodwill clearly near my house because he's wearing a Mars Max sweater that didn't look good on me, I think.
It doesn't really look good on me either. You're only seeing the top half here, which is perfect.
You look great, Ryan. You look great.
You got it into a mid-drift? Is that what you did?
Yeah, it's one of those 80s like workout videos.
Exactly.
For those listening to us, not watching us, Ryan is wearing a very fetching Myers Manx sweater in blue.
I want to say most people aren't watching this, and you really should be watching this. You can find us on Spotify and YouTube most of the time. So
if you want to see what he's actually wearing, get on Spotify or YouTube. Lindsey is on yet another adventure this week. So we won't say where, but she'll talk about it the next time she's online with us. But we are joined by our good friend, Michael. So, Michael, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here. I will be a poor substitute for Lindsey, but I'll do my best.
No, I think you're a great substitute for Lindsey.
Absolutely. Kind of our fifth Beatle, our fourth That Car Show host, right? So it's good to have you.
Trying to be. I'm still auditioning, it sounds like.
I think we are too.
We all are. That's the secret. And Michael, you're in LA, is that right?
I am. A beautiful, sunny, weather never changes, LA.
Nice. And Ryan, you're at home?
I am. I'm in the garage, and it's a beautiful day here in Denver. So,
and I am in Phoenix. It is 106 degrees, and we'll talk about it in a minute. But I've been driving race cars at 106 degrees. My British skin can't cope.
You weren't in a Super Mario outfit this time, were you?
No, that's reserved for Corvette meetings only. Secret joke for one of our previous podcasts. So I'm keen to understand what you folks have been up to. Michael, I know you sent us some notes. You've been messing around with some pretty fine equipment, so maybe let's start with you.
Sure. In my former life, I recently left a 25-year career in entertainment, most recently for the last 18 years as an agent. And the only reason I say that is because a former client reached out to me, a former director client that I used to work with before I switched to my current profession in the automotive space. And his father-in-law unfortunately passed away. And his father-in-law was a bit of an eccentric guy, but he had I think he had 27 cars in 2 different buildings in some industrial area here in town. And, he wanted what I do now is help, consult and help people either acquire cars, sell cars, but more importantly, try and value them and do a lot of PPIs because, especially with auctions and everything that's going on around town in this day and age, you kind of, want to put hands on something in most instances, especially from a buyer that's out of state or whatnot. Anyway, long story short, he had these 27 cars. Across all genres, all things, but some of the notable things for me, they had it was like a 10,000 mile Grand National GNX, and Ryan, you'll like this little fact.
It's right up your alley.
Right. Yeah. So a Buick Grand National GNX, which was I forget how few they made, a couple hundred, but it was a collaboration between McLaren, which they licensed the McLaren name, a company called ASC, American specialty company. They were the company that did a lot of small production runs in the 80s and 90s for major manufacturers. As a matter of fact, Ryan, this is why I'm bringing back to you and your port love of Porsches. They used to build the Cabriolet 944 for Porsche because Porsche didn't have the capacity to do it themselves. And so they did a lot of American muscle cars. They did a lot of Mustang stuff. But they, for 1 year only, did an '87, and they licensed the McLaren, the British McLaren name, and it was ASC McLaren, and they did Mustangs. They did this GNX, which is just a Buick Regal with a hopped up engine. But these are now $250,000 cars. Like, no one gave a shit about it for years, and now all of a sudden they're big money cars. So I got a chance to drive that, which drives like a '80s GM car, as you'd imagine. But I got to ride in I don't know much about Zondas, Pagani Zondas, but this was, I think, a 7.3. So I think it was like this is like an early 2000s Zonda, and it's as beautiful as you think it is, and it rides and drives is worse than you'd think it would. And then he had a 53 Corvette that had been totally resto modded and whatnot, and new chassis and all that. And so that was a fun one. And then he had a 2005 Ford GT, which honestly, that's one to ride in. I didn't get to drive that one, but I got to ride that one. The thing you don't think about is, and everybody talks about, is the cutout in the roof where the door hits. So it's fun to get in and out of, but it's impossible to park because you have to basically swing the door entirely wide to get out of the car, because if not, you're kind of, So anyway, thanks for letting me talk about that a little bit, Dan. But yeah, these are some amazing cars that the family's trying to figure out what to do with. But at the end of the day, the cars that never meet your heroes. And I thought that Zonda was going to be something that I would cherish forever as far as just the experience. And honestly, the GT for me anyway was the most impressive. Because those cars are only a couple model years apart. But the quality, I mean, when you look at the the Zonda and see the bolts will have, the inscriptions in them and whatnot, like every bolt will have it, and every bolt is turned to where it's, I like the level of craftsmanship in that car is amazing. It's just not as exciting, I think, as once you're in it. It probably looks great from the outside.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? I mean, those GTs, I've never driven one. So if you're listening, you've got one, want to let me drive it, please do. I've always liked them. There was a time when those things were clogging up Ford dealer lots, if you can believe it, right? They were practically giving those things away. And I love that they're finally getting their due. And the fact that it sounds like you'd take one over a Zonda, I think is real validation. You are an American car guy, though.
Yeah, you still put up with American things, like the fuel gauge didn't work in this, and like some of the things the fit and finish isn't what you'd expect, but bring it back to the GNX, people forget, Multimatic makes the Ford GT and made this, like that's a small company. I may be wrong about the new GT. I know Multimatic makes the most recent GT, but like these are not things bolted together by GM in a plant somewhere. I mean, even the latest generation NSX, that was a small hand team in where it was where do they build that, somewhere down south? But my point is like people forget these are hand assembled by a company that's being contracted by a major manufacturer. And this is not the kind of quality level. The Zonda notwithstanding, obviously, but this is not the kind of quality level you'd expect out of your Ford F-150. So you kind of put up with some of these quirks, and I think sometimes people forget that. And I think to your point, Ryan, that's why a lot of them initially sat on the dealer showroom so much, because it didn't have the same kind of feel as a Mercedes or a Porsche at that same price level back, 20 years ago.
Yeah. Can I segue that into something that I experienced a couple days ago? When that was a 1991 Lamborghini Diablo, and you want to talk about fit and finish. As I've likened to a couple other people, the thing's built like a bass boat, right, or an RV, right? That's kind of the level of build we're talking about. And then we broke the damn thing. About 5 minutes before I was supposed to be given the keys, the drivetrain just popped and it wouldn't go into gear.
Really?
And that was all she wrote. I've been writing this series for Autoblog about the poster cars of my youth, and first car was an F355, and the Diablo would have been a perfect sort of follow up. But Yeah, it didn't last. Well, it did last. It was amazing. I mean, nothing sounds or feels like, a Diablo, right? I think it's 472 horsepower, big V12. This one has an Albertoni exhaust. So if you listen to, Matt Farah and the Smoking Tire, his Countach has this Albertoni exhaust. In fact, Al apparently has a great nephew who's in the business as well with the same last name I've discovered. But hell of a thing. I mean, it's wrath of God, like when exotics were exotics, right? Where you weren't quite sure. It's a little scary, right? Like it's not a modern Porsche or even a 2005, Ford GT, right? It's just amazing thing. I don't know that I ever want one. Hopefully I will get to actually drive the thing. I think my what's the word I'm looking for? My backup plan will be a Carrera GT, so that's okay.
Oh wow!
But man, my God! And if you ever don't want attention, don't break down in a Lamborghini Diablo at rush hour on the side of a highway.
Where were you on the?
We're the Golden Gate Canyon, if you know where that is, having been a Denver guy, Michael. And it was beautiful while it lasted, and then we broke down just beyond a turn. Shout out to the Colorado State Patrol. They're very, very involved with the Colorado Grand that we do. And one of the troopers, about 10 minutes after we broke down, pulled in behind us, turned on the lights, and made us feel a little bit safer. But man, what a thing! It's just I wish it would have lasted.
It sounds like you dodged a bullet
a long way,
right?
Yeah, I think
had
so.
You been driving it.
Dan, that's all I could think of. If I would have felt, my fault or not, I would have felt absolutely terrible. It's we were going to do it on Friday the 13th, so I'm glad we didn't do it on Friday. It was going to feed into the whole devil car, that kind of thing, Diablo, and I'm so glad we did. I don't think my bank account could have handled even a small thing on that car, but man, what a thing, cars were an exotic car was just something different back in the day, right? And then, Michael, the sort of the evolution, right? The NSX and the Ford GT, and it sounds like Pagani maybe didn't get the message, but
I mean, I think of that car like that, but the Pagani specifically. I mean, you see the quality of it, how it was manufactured. Maybe not assembly, assembly too, but just like the thought and the money and the resources that went into putting that thing together. But it's like anything else, Ryan, I think we talked about this, but from the Colorado Grand last year when I was driving back down to Denver, there was a guy in a Ford GTD in a camo on I-70 doing, what I presume was high altitude testing because they do a lot of that in Colorado.
Right.
Like no one's putting 1 million miles on a Zonda. Type prototype. Ironically, I was going to make the joke about the Diablo that you probably could afford to fix it because that's when Chrysler owned them. So it probably was some Chrysler electronics that just something went wrong with. So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like anything else. You got to put cars die of boredom, and I think that's what I kind of saw with the collection. I got a chance to view.
Yeah.
If you don't drive these things, they break, and then when they break, they really break.
Although this Diablo, I think, has something like 68,000 miles on it. And Brian, my buddy who owns the thing, thank you, Brian, for dealing with me and indulging me with all these cars. Apparently, he's owned it for 12 years and not one problem. Then I get in the thing, all hell breaks loose. So.
Is he definitely going to let you near the Carrera GT then?
Oh boy, we're going to ease into that one, Dan.
Right.
We're going to ease into that one. Boy, that's a beautiful thing though too. There's an F40 in the mix as well, but that's having some work done. And
like
so
Ryan.
not a bad contingency plan, right? So
now you're
terrifies
totally
me
name dropping.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drop that mic.
Yeah.
But you got to drive some more modern stuff as well, didn't you, Ryan, last week?
Yeah, shout out to Rocky Mountain Automotive Press Group here in Denver. So if you live between, like, say, LA and Chicago, and you do this thing that we do, this is sort of our professional organization. So they facilitate press cars. A couple times a year, they put on what they call these driving experiences. So they get all the manufacturers together, and you get to drive everything back to back to back, and that was pretty cool. So obviously a lot of Subarus and all that. I was shocked by the new it's the WRX. Is it the TS? Do you guys know about this car?
Yeah.
It's the not quite STI, and amazing car. Drove like the world's best Honda, but not quick and not sort of the WRX experience that I was hoping for, that I thought it would be, that like, it gives the impression, of. Have either one of you driven like a newer WRX? I know our buddy John Deisty at the First Dibs podcast has been underwhelmed with his own WRX.
Yeah, I drove the TS at the LA Auto
Oh, you
Show.
did? Okay.
So it's got like an upgrade on the brakes, but it's just not powerful enough. They need to
No,
put a
it's
few
not
more horses
powerful.
on it.
Great ride. Seats are great. I love the, the way it feels, but I don't know why I'd take a BRZ or a, 86 or whatever over the WRX given the choice. I mean, it has such great potential. And I understand now why people tune them to death, because you can't hear the exhaust, right? This is the up level one, right? To your point, it's just, I kept waiting for like, the VTEC to kick in. It's just never kicked in. And then it's got such a small band. I think Redline is 6,000 RPM. So you've got 4,000 to 6,000 to work with for your power, right? Before you've got to shift again. It's an odd thing. I wanted to love it. I came away really liking it, but not for the reasons I thought I would. Strange thing.
You bring up a real good point, though. What is fast anymore, right? When a Tesla Plaid can, literally make you nauseous, and you could argue the Porsche idea of, ribbon door pulls and lightweight this, and charging 3 times as much. But what does that feeling bring? And maybe it comes down to a use case, right? I think we're kind of moving into a place where even a Camry can be fast, or a lot of things. Like you said, everybody loves the 86 and the BRZ because they handle well and their use case is great. I think when the first, couple generations of WRX came out, they were everyday cars that you could do fun things with. Now, so many things are fast and even have this sensation of being fast or powerful or whatever. Then it comes down to like, what are you using it for? And I think that's where people, I'm not saying you're wrong in how you feel about it, but then you have to change the dynamic of the question, because then it becomes, why am I driving this versus, oh my God, I get, like to your point about the Diablo, when you first got in and back when we were young, nothing did what that did, or few things did what that did. And so it was in a tight group. Now, a lot of stuff is fast. And so it kind of changes how I think for us, the car lovers and people that want to engage with cars, more than just transportation, we got to figure out like, what are we going to do with it, rather than it be this thing that's the quickest to 0 to 60, etc. All the old school metrics.
I was driving the Hellcat this week.
Oh,
so I've been to
talk about a use case car.
Yeah, I mean, this was Radford Race School, so I've done 2 days of high performance driving. So, ignoring the fact that it's 106 degrees here, you are allowed the air conditioning on, which I think I would have been just a puddle had I not had the air conditioning on. But this thing, we've put it through hell for 2 days. Hellcat, 2 days of intense high speed braking. They filled the cars up with gas after lunch. So we went for lunch. They put them through the shop, give them back to us. I turn mine on. The tank is full. The range, I kid you not, the range is 88 miles. That's how much
what does that equate to, like MPGs?
Yeah, I don't know. 4? Yeah, maybe 4 if you're lucky.
Tank, right.
Right.
But these things just take. Like, I've come away with more of an appreciation for that car. I just thought that car was a squirt and go quick car.
Yeah.
It's heavy, over 4,000 pounds, but we put it through autocross, we put it on the track, we put it on an oval. We did an exercise where you're driving up and there are a set of lights and cones ahead of you, and the instructor will choose your adventure, if you will. So, one time he might go all red and you just have to do an emergency stop from like 65 miles an hour. Then you might have to change lanes because one lane has got a hazard, and so 2 days, well worth it. It wasn't, racecraft. It was all high performance driving to kind of get you more familiar with the cars, what they can do. I guess the number one takeaway for me was the use of ABS and steering at the same time. So you do an exercise where you get up to 65 miles an hour, you're in a lane, and you have to get out of that lane to a side lane from 65 with your brakes on max. So your brakes are at a 10, and we all achieved it. A couple of rounds where we hit cones and stuff, but those cars are capable.
Yeah, I got to drive the electric version of that at this
Nice.
this driving event. I guess it was the Scat Pack. So I think the thing was like 600 and some horsepower. Um, it was cool. It was neat. Big car, but that was kind of tight on the inside. Made these synthetic noises, which I didn't need. But it the whole time I kept thinking, I wanted that car you drove, right? I wanted the gas car, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like that would have been a better experience, right? That said, hell of a thing, but it's not the same. It's not the same. And I've never driven a Hellcat. I wanted that wow. And it sounds like you had that, right? I wanted that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah,
Just raw.
that experience, right? That experience, right?
Yeah. Well,
And
if
I
you
think
get the
that's what we're.
chance, get onto Radford.
It sounds awesome.
Yeah. It's a
It,
great 2 days. We were
yeah.
there was four of us. We had two instructors between four of us. It's good fun.
Did they give you
I
a go on the Demon too, or is this just about the Hellcat and
I
taking
think
on
they have a
the private
separate
course?
because they have a drag strip. So they have
Right.
a separate course for drag racing with the Demon. Um, but the Hellcats had, I think, over 600 horsepower, maybe
Oh yeah.
650, and you can't
yeah,
use 650 horsepower.
yeah, yeah.
It's like,
No.
especially when you turn the traction control off. God, I
Yeah.
was the only one that nearly veered off into the actual
Oh, really?
road up to the school. So the less talked about that, the better.
That just meant you were trying a little harder. Yeah.
Exactly,
Hey,
exactly.
Yeah.
I heard you got to hang out with our buddy Jorge from
I
Tormenting
did.
Tarmac, who lives in the Phoenix area. I saw you guys parked next to yourselves parked next to a really beautiful, like Miami blue 911 of some variety.
So that was the other. So our
How's
good
Jorge?
friend
Yeah.
Justin Wilson, who is,
Oh, Justin.
yeah,
Okay.
he was with us as well. So it's
That's
Jorge,
his car.
Justin,
Okay.
and Lincoln from the Peterson. So
Fantastic.
Justin's just picked up. He got an offer he couldn't refuse on his GT3 RS Tribute. So these are, I think there's less than 150 of these cars that he bought new. So he's always wanted a Miami Blue Turbo S. So he's just picked that up and he's going to send it off for fettling and suspension. But Jorge joined us as well. So it was great because I could introduce Jorge to Justin, who are both like almost neighbors.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So Jorge's in good form. He's just hit
Yeah.
150 episodes of his podcast.
Yeah, congrats to him. That ain't nothing.
No.
Let me tell you. That's a lot of shows. That's a lot of
A lot
grinding
of time.
away and commitment. Yeah, yeah.
We need
Good
to
for
get him
you,
on.
Jorge.
We need to get him on this
Proud of you.
podcast.
Yes,
So
we do.
Jorge, if you're
Yes, we
listening.
do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I wanted to mention real quick the highlight of this experience. You talk about supercars and how far supercars have come, exotic cars. I got to drive my first Artura, my first McLaren
Oh, wow.
Artura. And I've never lusted after a McLaren, right? It's never really been quite what I've thought I've wanted, right? And I know the Artura is the quote unquote cheap McLaren, but I think it might be the one I'd want. It is, I think, 670 horsepower. It's this mild hybrid. It's full carbon fiber, right? So I mean, it's rigid as all get out. Great gearbox, obviously paddles. It was, it's a Targa, it's a, whatever you want to call it. So driving that thing with the top down, just zipping through the gears. I mean, I kept likening it to, if you've ever driven a Lotus Elise, right? Those are just things of beauty, but with like 3.5 times the horsepower, right? And a little bit bigger and obviously
Right.
better appointed and all that. I fell in love with this thing, this Artura. And I mean, it was like I don't know. It had like GT4 vibes, but even more taken out of it, right? And obviously, quite a bit more power. It was just fantastic. I don't know if either one of you have driven this, but if you get the chance, it is it's the cat's meow, man. It is really, really good. And of course, everyone says, "Oh, you got to drive the 750." Or I don't know. I think the Artura is maybe what I would buy, and certainly the closest thing to my budget, even if it is still way out of it. But any experience with the Artura, either of you?
No,
No.
650 and a 575, but
Yeah.
you're probably driving it up in the mountains, right? You have this again the use case to take that thing and
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and really
Yeah.
let it run out. You see quite a few McLarens in everyday traffic around LA, which kind of
Yeah.
desensitizes you a little bit. But at the same time, I think to your point, Ryan, that's probably one of those cars that you probably could daily, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it wouldn't be a terrible thing to get in and out of and do some small errands and whatnot. So, to your point, it probably is a great use case to have
Yeah.
that car for,
Yeah.
your second car or even your daily, in the summer. So, I will put it on the list. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
How does
It
it
is good.
work?
Find yourself a purple one if you can.
How does it
How does
work?
it? In
Because
what way?
well, no, as in, so you were there with a number of other peer journalists, right?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
There
Yeah.
is a lineup of cars which include everything from Subarus to electric Chargers, but there's this kind of
Yeah.
standout McLaren. How,
Yeah.
how,
That was the best car.
but how do you get the keys for it? Like, is there a fight? Like, is it like you just have to
Well, I
muscle
won't
your
name
way
any
in?
names. There were a couple YouTubers that seemed to disappear from lunch a little early who ended up with that car first.
Interesting.
But yeah, yeah. You just, everyone got a chance. There aren't so many people, right?
Yeah.
There are, probably fewer than 20 of us, and there are probably just as many manufacturer reps and all that. So I think just about everyone who wanted to drive the thing got a chance. I was with our friend Jason Meshnick, also from Autoblog and Fuel Fed here in Boulder, and so we were able to extend our time in these vehicles by, there were two of us, right? So one of us would drive, then we'd stop somewhere and swap, and so we got to spend a little more time, spend time as a passenger, had a little more time to photograph things. But I think just about everyone that wanted to drive the thing in the end had a chance, right? So yeah, it's a group of nice people, right? Shout out to Sarah, who's running the organization these days. She's doing a great job, and Matt Pilgrim, who ran it up until recently, who also did a fantastic job. Because it is, it is well managed and well planned, right? And so no one goes home crying. I gotta mention real quick, there was the most entertaining car at that whole thing was it's the Jeep Wagoneer S. They call it the BEV. It's an electric car. I think it's got 600 horsepower, and it was the only car of the day where everyone who got in it laid down 11s like right away. I don't know what's going on in that thing. It's not a particularly attractive car. I'm thrown by the Wagoneer name. It should be it's probably the Cherokee replacement, but probably not using that name any longer. But not it's not the Grand Cherokee. It's more of a mid-size thing. Holy crap, what an entertaining thing that was. But yeah, there were enough cars, everyone had time. There really wasn't a dud in the bunch, right? I mean, everything's pretty good anymore, right? And none of the manufacturers are going to show up with anything that sucks, right?
Yeah.
So,
That's very cool.
even the more basic cars came in nice trims, and
Nice.
everything was pretty
You
impressive.
mentioned, Michael, you occasionally see McLarens in LA or see them quite frequently. I think when we were talking the other day, you said that car culture is really changing, or you're seeing change in LA. What are you seeing?
Well, you're seeing a lot of like two things are kind of happening, and Dan, you're a more recent transplant. By the way, there is a Pagani dealer not a mile from where you are now posted, in where you're living in LA. If you the funny thing about it, real quickly, the Pagani dealer, it's a glass fronted storefront. And if you go inside, it's roped off area, like when you first walk in the door, because it's really by appointment only.
Yeah.
And they say no photos. They tell you no photos. There's this big sign, no photos allowed. But literally though, you could stand on the sidewalk and take pictures of everything that's in the showroom. All that being said, but to that end though, like where do you see a Pagani dealer, like an actual Pagani dealer, right? And then being in LA, you do get to see. Whether it's the resto mod stuff of like Icons or obviously Singer. I'm in El Segundo, which is probably 10 miles from where Singer now has their new headquarters, and so you get to see a lot of different things. But where the culture is changing, where I'm going with this is that Cars and Coffees was started out here, which I know Lindsey has a great history with, and as you've seen those kind of morph into what they've become. Now you have more restrictions, or people are trying to profit and make them more of a business rather than just a gathering. But what you're seeing on the other side of it, and kind of a response to that, Dan, as you start to drive around LA, you'll see, and if you pay attention, you'll go through major intersections, and all you'll see is tire marks because some of the crowd here is, what was street racing back in the day that kind of inspired Fast and Furious franchise is now street takeovers, and obviously, the dangers of that. And that's a almost nightly occurrence in LA, depending on, the part of town you're in. And even some of the
Yeah.
more populous parts of town, you'll see just, big swirls in the street because someone had come in and, done a street takeover. And it's interesting to see how that has shifted from kind of these social gatherings to now they're either kind of trying to be money-making operations, because obviously, as you guys know, putting on an event is not an easy thing to do, especially, in this day and age.
Yeah.
But also the other part of it, the people that don't want to do that or don't have the money to spend or don't have the quote-unquote cool car, they've kind of found their own way of doing their version of the car thing, which is
Yeah.
arguably, dangerous in the street takeover stuff, but even just sort of the smaller groups that gather, because on any given day and every given weekend, and there's something going on in LA with the car scene, but it's becoming
Yeah.
more bifurcated, in my opinion. It's becoming not exclusionary, but it's not that kind of warm friendliness that I know I've heard Lindsey talk about, and I've chatted with her a little bit, the way those original cars and coffees used to be, even the ones in
Mm.
Malibu, and that some of the ones that have been unfortunately discontinued. It wasn't that love of the automobile. Now it's like this is everybody's kind of clicked. It's like a high school, right? Everybody's clicked off into their own little groups,
Yeah.
and I hope that changes. I hope that changes. And I know the Peterson does a great job of.
Yeah.
They did the lowrider show. They got the 80s and 90s exhibit now.
Yeah.
Hopefully that brings more people together and kind of brings everybody back to a more communal sense, because it feels too, in my opinion, it's starting to get too small and too insular. I don't know what it's like in Denver these days with, because I know you guys
It's
fuel fed, which we know Mike does, and all that other stuff.
yeah,
Are
it's
people more communal, or are they again
you find
gotten
your
into their
own
cliques?
scene. Yeah, there's so much going on for a city, our size. Who's the guy Burns that did like the Civil War PBS
Ken Burns.
series? You know what I'm talking about? What
Ken
Ken
Burns.
Burns.
Yeah.
I was just listening to an interview with him, and he was talking about how, back in 1858, there was some professional baseball player who was like, ruining how the spirit of the game was gone, and it wasn't the game that he grew up with, right? And sometimes I wonder if it's just not us getting older, right?
Maybe.
But maybe, right? And I guess you just sort of have to find your own thing. We get some of that crap here too, right? I don't think the street takeovers quite so much, right? But there's some of that. You see these yahoos on like dirt bikes, zipping around. The cops don't seem to see them, but the rest of us do, right? But I think we're pretty tame here in Denver. I mean, there are a lot of events, I don't make it to, just because they're not quite my scene. But there are a lot of events that I do, right? Fuel Fed, you mentioned, is a great one. I don't know. I guess maybe as we get older, we look for different things out of it, right? And I think the older I get, the less I want to sit around in a parking lot, right? The more I want to be out driving. Time is precious, and that kind of thing. So I don't know. It's the Peterson definitely is killing it. I think you've talked about the Peterson heart and soul, beating heart of car culture right in LA and maybe the greater country, and that 80s, 90s thing that was going on. I'm not going to try to pronounce the Italian show that just happened with our buddy
Macanisma?
Maurice. Macanisma, right, with Maurice Merrick, who I think emceed the thing, which was awesome to see. It's so good that there is like a stabilizer, right? That there is sort of a mothership or whatever that I think keeps things in check a little bit. But it's interesting. I guess it's something that'll always change, right? It'll always, maybe the older we get, the more foreign some of it will seem. But it should be friendly, right? It should be fun. I don't know.
Well, I went up
if it isn't.
to Good Vibes last Friday.
Oh, you
So
did?
Los Angeles Crest Highway to Newcomb's Ranch. Met Dan McGuinness at the bottom.
Of course you did.
I then met
Of
Dan
course you
McGuinness
did.
at the top, because he proceeded to overtake me in my little SQ5. He's got the Boxer Spider, and I was like,
Yeah.
I think I said to him, look, if I see you coming up behind me, I'll move over. And he goes, don't worry, I know you will. But it was good to see him.
That's a McGinnisism, if I
Yeah,
ever heard
I
one.
said to him, "You'll never make a Brit, Dan." So yeah, but I got to the top, and actually, it was more of what you talked about, Michael. So Jay's out of town at the minute. He's kind of like the sheriff, if you will. There were some young idiots at the top in brand new GT4 RSs, driving excessively through the car park, and then doing burnouts and
Not
just
cool.
making loads of noise.
Not cool.
So the
Yeah.
thing I think I've learned from that is I had to get into the office for about 10, so I left about 8:45. But I think they were pretty much gone by 8:45. So moving forward, I think my lesson is to get up there later. So as I was coming down, I saw Lieberman, I saw Farah coming out. So I think now the smart move is actually to go to Good Vibes later.
Interesting. Well, Jay was I know just from Instagram. He was at the Goonies. I think was at the 40th anniversary festival in Astoria, Oregon.
Yeah.
So he was out doing important work, right?
Yeah, no, it's a great show. I saw Maurice
Yeah.
at the Mechanism show. He was in
Yeah.
good form. He got to
Good.
interview Bruce Meyer. Bruce brought his 250 short wheelbase.
Such a good
That's
car.
such a beautiful car. It's
Yeah.
it won Le Mans.
Silver.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
and he was then on. He brought. I think he just got a new Alfa Romeo Classic convertible. So I spoke to him
Oh,
in the
really?
week, and he was
Oh yeah.
tinkering with
Yes,
it.
he did. Yes, he did.
And then
Yeah.
he drove that down, and then he did part of the rally, and I was lucky enough to get invited to the rally as well. I
Nice.
had a modern Alpha, he had a classic Alpha, but we both met at the other
Nice.
end. So it was good.
Nice. Awesome. Love Maurice. He's the real deal. And yeah, and he's such a pro, consummate professional, whether he's interviewing someone or emceeing. I mean, he's who I want to be when I grow up. He's a great guy.
Just the
So I'm
work
glad he
There's
had
a
ethic.
lot of
a
time.
chance.
You'll get
Yeah.
there.
I think he's about my age. That's the problem. So shoot.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, 80s and 90s, I got to that event as well, so I don't know whether it's useful to talk a little bit about
Awesome.
that.
Yeah.
So they have a new exhibit called Totally Awesome. It's on the ground floor of the museum, so opposite the Manx Cafe.
Okay.
As you can imagine, it's everything 80s and 90s, a massive celebration of all that good stuff. Standouts for you, Ryan, I think probably they have got the very first, I don't know if it's the first actual car, but the first year of the AMG G-Wagon convertible.
Oh, really?
So I saw that and
That's
thought of you. Michael, I
pretty
don't think I know
excellent.
you well
Yeah.
enough. Was there an 80s or 90s car that really, sparked you?
I mean, that PPG pace car Cyclone.
Yeah.
I've had multiple Cyclones and a Typhoon that I recently sold, so I'm very familiar with those cars, and that particular car, or that truck I should say, is very famous within that community. But it's also, those PPG pace cars are obviously very rare. They all had performance modifications done to them. That particular car is amazing. The real amazing car that fits into that vein, which I'm kind of surprised that someone didn't offer them instead, is they made a Cyclone. They made 10 Cyclones that were giveaway cars for Marlboro when Marlboro was a big sponsor. Of all this stuff in the 90s. And if you smoked enough, there was basically a golden ticket, kind of like Willy Wonka. And they gave away 10 of them. They all had their. If you'll Google them, you will see the paint job. Totally different paint jobs. They had someone cut teeth. They had custom made T-tops made for them. Larry Shinoda, Larry Shinoda, did the.
Is this
did
for the
styling
smoke,
on it.
the cigarette smoke?
Yeah, yes, right, for the cigarette. So basically, these were 10 giveaway cars, and they're still around.
I had no
Most
idea.
most of them are still around, and they bring serious money. But the names that were involved, and again, it was ASC, the same company that did the other stuff. It was Marlboro. It was Larry Shinoda. Those are very fun and interesting. Which again, there's 10 of them in the world. I think even a couple have made it overseas because they were all given away in America to cigarette smokers. But they're just kind of
the
I don't know.
spec.
But no, I think what the Peterson does so well, and where I'm going with this is that they just have so much access to so much great stuff, is that you always get surprised by something there. And more importantly, I credit everybody there, you include Dan, like for bringing in a lot of things that people didn't know or maybe had forgotten about. And I promise you that Cyclone is not something, especially that PPG one, because it obviously was a true pace truck for the races. That's gonna that paint job alone, when you guys Google it, or Ryan, if you Google it, that's gonna some little kid's gonna be impressed by that. Some kid's gonna walk in there, and even if they don't like the car, they're gonna love the way it looks. And I think that's what a lot of these things, much like the Diablos, we started the conversation, that's what gets us first for most people that are, they see it and they're like, oh my God, and I hope that type of car inspires some young person to, follow the rest of us into this obsession that
Yeah.
consumes all of our waking hours.
But they literally
Yeah.
have something for everyone there. It's we've got Group B rally car. Well, actually, two Group B rally cars. One is a Citroen, so it's a road car,
Mm.
and then they've got the car that we took to the Quail actually last year with Dirtfish. So the Audi S1E2, driven by
Nice.
Anna
Oh
Michelin
yeah,
period.
I remember we saw that car, Ryan. We saw that one at the Quail. I know we walked by that car.
The Quail, I think it was. Yeah.
We walked by that car at the Quail.
Yeah,
I know someone had a little something to do with that. Yeah.
yeah.
I was also impressed with some of the outfits. Did you were you resplendent in white linen yourself, or did you dress? What was the? I was pretty blown away by some of the outfits.
Yeah, I had a kind of bit of a Miami Vice vibes going on with a white jacket
Nice.
and white shoes,
Nice.
but that was all a little bit interrupted because before the event started, I went to help out to move a Schumacher Ferrari Formula One car.
As one
So
does.
I'm in a
Yeah.
jacket,
Twist.
pants, pushing this damn thing. So yeah, it was less Miami Vice and I guess more Miami Grand Prix.
It's humid in Miami, right?
Yeah.
A little sweat.
Yeah.
Okay, on the brow.
Yeah.
you
But
know?
it's open now.
There was this
People
fit
can go
thing
to.
that made it authentic.
Yeah,
The
Right.
sweat
that's
made
right.
it authentic, right? You were true Miami style.
Yeah, but they have got the Daytona from Miami Vice in there. So
Oh,
the
nice.
story behind that is that there's this fake Daytona. It's a Corvette with a Daytona body on top. I think at least the first season of Miami Vice, that's what they were driving around in. Ferrari tried to sue and said cease and desist, or we'll sue you. They got into conversations, and then Ferrari kind of changed their tune and gave them two Ferrari Testarossas in white. So, but that
That's
original
the
car,
story.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, do
Huh.
you mind if I put a little more color
Please.
on that?
Yeah.
So Michael Mann, the great writer director who created Miami Vice, got that cease and desist, and because that's when, especially in that time, there were a lot of replicas being made, and obviously Ferrari couldn't do it. When they made that deal for the white Testarossas, Ferrari said that they had to blow up the car. So in the season finale of, I think it is season one, maybe season two, it's been a while, but whatever the season finale is before the switchover happens,
Yeah.
they blow up that car.
Wow.
Specifically to
hurts.
satisfy,
Oh, no kidding.
they said I don't know if they were looking, I can't speak to whether or not they were looking for it to actually be done on screen, but they wanted the car destroyed, basically.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want, now that the show was becoming famous, they didn't want that car to get passed around and inspire other people to like chop up or make replicas. So they asked for that car to be destroyed. Maybe the story is it needed to be destroyed. And so what they did it in typical, kind of grandeur of Hollywood, they actually blow up that car whenever the season finale is before the switchover, and they destroyed it per the request of Ferrari.
Yeah. Wow.
I love it.
But it's funny because there's also the fake Ferris Bueller car there. And
Right.
yeah.
What didn't this thing have? What doesn't this
Well,
exhibit have? It's got everything
It's got a
amazing.
McLaren
Yeah.
F1.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
You can stand and look at the McLaren F1 for hours.
oh my God. The best.
Oh my God!
Best.
Talk about details.
Yeah. I was talking to Justin Bell about it because he obviously raced one in period. And I was like, did they give you one? And he's like, no. He was racing for the owner of Harrods. And
Okay.
the owner of
I remember that
Harrods
livery.
would lend him, he had one, had a road version.
Yeah.
So he got to borrow one a few times, but didn't get given one. But there's also the Low-Tech, which is a Mercedes. It's almost like the prototype that was going to be a competitor to the McLaren F1. Didn't make it as a car because they obviously then went to the CLK platform.
Right. Yeah.
That
Yeah,
was at
great.
Pebble last year too.
Yes, yeah. Great
That's beautiful.
exhibit. Lots of great cars. If you're in LA, go have a look.
Yeah. Looks amazing. Looked like a hell of a party. It hurt to miss it, but can't do everything.
Next time.
Right? Yeah. Eventually,
I
I'm
think
just
it's
going
a
to have to
good-
join you two in LA.
Yeah, just come on out for a long weekend.
Just
But
slowly.
you got to make it. You got to
And
make
just
it
don't
on a
come back.
Friday for good vibes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
See what your wife and daughter how they feel about that.
But
But real quickly, just lastly
What-
on what,
yeah, go ahead.
what the 80s, 90s. I think to your point, how we started this with your comment about the Subaru. That stuff not only was fast then, it felt fast, and it did all those things like the Cinetta V16. Like there's all these interesting cars. These are all the progenitors to to what we see now and is so common. And the horsepower numbers now with the new ZR1 with over 1,000 horsepower, like this is really where it started, because in the 70s and early mid
Yep.
80s, that, I mean, by and large, that was dead, right? And so you had these people
Yeah.
doing these
Yep.
things that I would argue inspired the people that are now making the things that we lust after, or more importantly, the next generation lust after. And thank goodness that there was the ability to do what's in that at that time, because it'd be hard to replicate that level of volume in these
Yeah.
different types of cars today. Thank God in that late 80s, early 90s, and obviously into the early 2000s time frame, that people were doing that, because you could argue there is not a Hellcat
Mm-hmm.
without people doing the crazy stuff they did in the 80s to
Yeah.
not just prove a business case, but inspire somebody to all the people that did a lot of these more modern supercars, or the revival cars, if you will, like the Challengers and the Mustangs and the Camaro reboot. Like that started then. And if that hadn't happened, I think people underestimate, as
Yeah.
crappy of
Yeah.
cars as they may have been, like your point about, we joked about the Diablo, it's a great car that inspired the stuff that now people
Oh,
either take for granted or get a chance to experience today. And I'm happy that happened, because if not, it
yeah.
would look
Yeah.
vastly different than what we came out of the 70s and early
No.
80s with.
No. For the record, I love the Diablo. Right. I just want
Right. No,
everyone
I
to
know,
know it's an amazing thing.
we make
But
light of these
we've
cars,
gotten
but if
better
they don't
with how we
exist,
put
yeah,
cars together. Yeah.
if those
And
don't
think about
exist, it's different.
No, think about. I know I'm the oldest one in this group, but we're all roughly, we could have all gone to high school together, right? We are unique in our generation. We've seen from like literally the worst cars ever made to some of the best cars ever made, right? Talk about a golden age of cars to grow up and grow old with, right? I mean, when we were born, mid late 70s, right? Cars were as bad as they ever were, I mean, I grew up with these diesel Volkswagens. I mean, there were these, anemic, 110 horsepower American V8s on the road. I mean, these were just the malaise era. It's literally called the malaise era. That's what we were born into, right? And look at us now. It's wild.
Everything
I
old
mean,
is new again, because we used to make fun of Yugos, right? And now I
how
don't know if
about
you've caught
that?
wind, Yugos coming back. So
And it
I
looks
guess
pretty good.
yeah. I mean, I think it's AI.
Yeah,
I mean, I obviously
I'm
I
sure
haven't
it
physically
is.
seen one yet, but the joy of it is I think maybe the lesson here is life is cyclical, right? You had
Yeah.
the post-war stuff when everybody was hot rodding, and that was the inspiration for the '60s muscle car era, and the turbine cars and all the different the Motorama stuff in the '40s, and the
Hmm.
'40s,
Hmm.
'50s, and '60s, and then to your point, Ryan, then it dips down to the '70s and '80s, and then we come back up, and then we come
Yeah.
down, and so I mean, it's all just one big ride, but. The ride's
Yeah.
been good. The ride's been good the last 25 years, 30
Yeah.
years. It's been
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Super lucky, aren't we?
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what the future is, and I'm not an anti-EV person, but there has to be that splitting, this kind of that bifurcation, or that what I'm trying to say. Like you have to come together between the future and the past, and it'll be curious to see who
Yeah.
figures that out.
Yeah.
Whether it's a mild hybrid
Well,
or a partial hybrid, but to your point about the Chargers, in LA, I've only seen one now of the new Chargers, whereas I've
mm,
seen pretty much. I mean,
mm,
I'm expecting to see a GTD before I see another Charger. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
take rate in LA is, I don't want to say indicative of the country, but just because there's so big and so many people,
Yeah.
you tend to see a lot of everything, or the first of things.
Absolutely.
And I've only seen one
Yeah.
Charger, so I'm not saying that that's a
I,
bad car or not the future, but it's different. It's different now.
I don't know if this is inside baseball, but talking to the folks at Radwood, if you bought the Charger, you get a 3 days course at the school.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because you
that
can
makes
still get
sense.
into trouble in one of those for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean,
So
600 horsepower
yeah.
is 600
Yeah.
horsepower, isn't it? I was
Right.
in. They started one up while I was there, and it was quite funny because it makes this roar, but obviously there's no engine, so uh,
Yeah.
it's just a complete fake roar. But at least they're trying.
Yeah. It's it's a good looking thing, right? It's got some neat lines and cutouts, and I mean, I mean, it's just not the
I'm
same.
developing a new category of car. So the category is called All Sins Are Forgiven. So there's 2 nominations so far. The first nomination is the Lexus LC 500 convertible. It's a car that's
Mm.
too heavy. to get to any of the details in the screen, you have to dig down lots of menus. But that V8 is pretty pucker. The
Yeah,
second
yeah,
And
car
it's
is what I
beautiful.
drove. Yeah,
yeah,
and it looks good, right?
So beautiful.
yeah.
The second car is I had the Stelvio Quadrifoglio last Sunday for the day. They gave it to me for the day, press car. Um, you get in that car, and there is no way to work out how to use the interface. You tap the user
Hmm.
interface, and it doesn't respond. So this thing is like a premium Stellantis product. You
Yeah.
tap it, you can't get the screen to work. As soon as you drive that thing, there is no way it should drive as well as it does. So all sins are forgiven on that car because
Yes.
it is
Yes.
just it. I was driving my Audi up Good Vibes, and my car felt heavy in the corners. You
Mm,
drive, obviously it's a lighter car, the Stelvio Quadrifoglio, but it's an SUV. It doesn't feel like an SUV. It goes
interesting.
like Billy-O. Yeah, all sins are forgiven.
What's that phrase? It goes like what?
Billy-O.
Billy
Yeah,
O?
it goes like Billy-O. There's
Billy
our
O.
first T-shirt, right?
Right, right.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Of course. I think Billy Ocean, get into my car, get out of my dreams. What was
yeah.
it?
But
Probably has nothing to do with anything, but that's where my
have
mind
either of
goes.
you driven any all
Child of the
sins
80s.
forgiven cars?
Yeah. You go first, Michael, because I feel like you've
A
driven
lot.
some
I,
esoteric
you know,
stuff. Yeah.
it's. I think it comes. I'm going to stand by, and I know I'm slightly dodging the question, but it's use case, right? To your point, Dan, just
Mhm.
now, that SUV, your SUV, and that SUV in the canyons, the use case for that is there. So then that becomes something that makes that car forgivable. Whereas if you're lugging around in traffic, or we have heard, or I have experienced, electrical issues with alphas, late model alphas, all the other sins that on a livable day-to-day basis, maybe you can't forgive it. But on a use case, that's a great car. So maybe it's like,
Mhm.
is there a great use case for the car? And so I don't know. I'm grateful to get to experience some of the things that I've gotten to experience, and it's just you love them for what they are, and I try not to
Yeah.
not love them for what they're not. So I know I dodged the question because I can't think of anything that's either impressive or fancy, but
Yeah.
or even just fun. But like they can all be fun in their own way. I mean, going back to the Yugo was a great around town car because I worked at a tire store for 3 years in college, and like we literally had a Yugo as a parts runner, and that thing
Oh,
like
really?
you could park it practically on the sidewalk because it was so small. You filled it up with gas once a month, but it could do 65 on the highway. But you're running around
Mm.
parts around. I was in Boulder, but like you're running around Boulder, so
Yeah.
you don't really need to do 85. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind of car, like for a piece of garbage that it was, that we had everything taped up, and you had to use a bungee to keep the door closed. It was a really good car, so I kind of feel like in that case, that car worked out really great. So that's my sins are forgiven car, is an
There we
early
go.
first
The
generation
Yeah.
Yugo.
Yugo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know that I have a particular model, but I'll give credit, to anything that takes a risk, right? That isn't just, committed down to nothing, right? And maybe that's where the Alpha comes in, something like the Alpha, right? I mentioned the Lotus Elise. I know that car's 20 years old now, hard to believe, but that car just was so good at its mission that you didn't care that it barely fit you. You didn't care that the stereo sucked. You didn't care that, if you crash the front, I think they call it the clam or whatever in the front,
The
then the
front
car was
clamshell.
worthless, right?
Hmm.
It clamshell, right? It's just, but damn it, if that car wasn't
Mm.
amazing, right? Now, if I'd gotten one now, maybe I think it was slow, whatever. But I mean, anything that just says, you know what, I'm just gonna, let my freak flag fly and just sort of be my own thing. That's why I love
Yeah.
Alpha, right? That's why I still love Lotus, right? I just, those sorts of companies are few and far between anymore,
Yeah.
right? Lexus, I mean, that Lexus isn't making Lexus money, right? But they're doing it, right? How many cars have a big V8 like that? You can get it as a convertible. I mean, I don't know. We need cars
Yeah.
like that. We need more of that stuff. So,
Anything else from you, gentlemen? What else have we?
God, I got to give a shout out. Okay, so Michael, you grew up in Denver,
Yes, I
right?
did.
I think a lot of our listenership is in Denver. If you are in Denver or the Front Range of the Denver Metro, you need a hair cut. by a car enthusiast who, if you want to get your hair cut in an actual garage with a vintage Alfa Giulia next to you, check out Tuna's Garage on Instagram. Ryan Lowry. He cut my hair. Looks all right, right? What little is left the other day, and we had a lot of fun talking about cars and everything else. I mean, where else can you have that experience, right? You're literally sitting next to an Alfa, right? So if you are in Denver, look him up.
Ryan Lowry. Yeah, very good. Very good. Well, I think we're probably at a show, aren't we, gentlemen?
Yes.
You guys have definitely heard enough
Michael,
of me, that's for sure.
No, we need to hear you say our phrase,
For a
Michael.
while.
We have a phrase at the end of every show. So I don't know. Do you know what it is, Michael, or do we need to?
Do you know it?
I've heard you guys do it, yeah, but I'm not a full member of the team yet, so that'll be my initiation once Lindsey's here. We can do it all together.
Always be driving.
Yes.
The password is.
Well, is that your Wi-Fi password at your house?
Yeah. It's well, from myself, Michael, and Ryan. Lindsey, we hope you're having a great time on your international visit. But just remember, with that car show, always be driving.